And this is an object within the knowledge graph because Radiohead is a band and Karma Police is a song and there's other members and there's this whole database of objects that are connected together. What's your name? Emily. That's right. So we talked over the tiramisu. What do you think about these blue boxes? Albums, events, videos, listen. And people who search for Radiohead also want to know what happened with Radiohead. Did they split up? Why are they so respected? Are they still active? Here's these other members. Here's their socials, Emily. Do you know who all these people are? Probably, right? But this is where search is headed. And I had a private meeting with the head of search quality at Google, and he revealed to me that this is their answer to ChatGPT. They've been waiting on it. They've been partially releasing it in the United States. And what they're going to do is show the single consolidated answer instead of the 10 blue links. And this is what's going to throw everyone who thought they were doing SEO under the bus. They're not going to know what to do. Now we're going to go to my Google Photos, which is everything that is on my phone automatically uploaded to the cloud for $10 a month. And I remember seeing Guns N' Roses in concert. Do you guys remember? Not Guns Are Roses, Guns N' Roses. And they had an album, Appetite for Destruction, 1987. And that was that almost 40 years ago, 35 years ago? Sweet Child of Mine, Patience, Cold November Rain, all those songs. And there was Fat Axel. And Fat Axel, if it'll pull up, he would come out and he would sing his song. Then he would hide behind the stage and breathe oxygen while Slash would play a guitar solo. Then he would come back out again and he would sing another song. And it was Fat Axel. Are we not getting anything here? And the beauty is those songs that were from 1987, Emily, they're still getting royalties. Have they done anything? You guys know Guns N' Roses. Have they done anything since 1987? Okay. But anything significant, right? So I would challenge you that you are all rock stars, not Fat Axel, like real rock stars. And what a rock star does is they have their greatest hits. You have a song, an evergreen story, a piece of content that continues to produce for you that becomes, instead of 80-20, is 99-1. But I would think that most of us in this room, if we follow traditional marketing, we are following a newspaper publisher model. And that publisher model is every day there's news. There's the weather. There's, some lady's cat got stuck in the tree. Donald Trump said something, right? I mean, do all of us feel like we have to keep producing news every day, right? Because now there's the Valentine's Day thing. Now we got to get ready for Black Friday. And there's like on and on. And so we never get a chance to think about our greatest hits. But what if I told you that for performance marketers, what we've seen over the last 15, 20 years is when you focus on the things that have worked the best in your community, because you have these recurring events, because you have businesses, because there's places of interest, those same stories will trump, they will beat anything else new you come up with most of the time. So if we put 80% of our effort into our greatest hits, into things that have already worked, and spent only 20% of our time on new stuff, would you not agree that we would get more ROI, more bang for the buck from our marketing? And then Emily's nodding her head, and she's probably thinking, like all these other marketers, like, I've got so much free time, I've got so much extra staff, I can explore every single technology. I'm on top of everything. I have everything I need, right? Says every marketer. That says nobody, right? When I go to these marketing conferences, I hear overwhelmed. So I was the keynote speaker at Affiliate World, which is the #1 performance marketing conference in Dubai last month. And there's thousands of people all clamoring over the latest AI this and AI that. Hey, Dennis, have you heard of this AI tool? And this one does this, and this one generates this one. You can't even tell it's real or not, right? And I just find that so noisy because I can't keep up. We'll do this stuff for like Adidas. We're going to Portland later tonight. Hopefully we can stop and get some free shoes. Danny's size 14, so if he's here, we would stop at their place and get more stuff. But I think that when things speed up and technology is hard to keep up with, we should actually slow down and think about the thing that actually is the most scarce and most precious when the AI can just generate all kinds of stuff. It's kind of weird. I was the MC at an AI conference in Chicago, 3 whole days of all these AI speakers, the top people in AI, and then me. I'm a search engine engineer. And what we've learned is that there are stories that last. So we think about Creep or Karma Police. There's stories here that in 10 years from now, no matter what the AI is, will still be meaningful. If any of you guys have kids and they like to watch Finding Nemo over and over again, and you know all the words, those are greatest hits over and over again. And the same is true for all of us. Like, we could look at me, for example, and you'll find that this bell curve power law kind of thing is true. So if we look at me, for example, you guys may have seen me argue with Mark Zuckerberg on CNN. I trashed him. And it wasn't fair. It was a setup. So they told me in advance, hey, you're going to argue with Zuckerberg, and we're going to ask you, should Facebook be regulated? And this is during Cambridge Analytica and Russian interference and that whole kind of thing. So, of course, I said, well, do you think cigarette companies should be able to regulate themselves? Do you think Uncle Tom should be able to install your window blinds? Do you really trust this guy? Do you trust this guy to be in charge of your data? What do you think, Mark? Well, I think it's, I'm not saying the government should, or, And so that was the greatest hit for me. And every one of us in our organizations, whether an agency, we work in-house, we're an entrepreneur, we have our greatest hits. But there's so much noise about AI, this and all that. I got to do all these new things and get on Snapchat and sing and dance on TikTok and all that kind of stuff that we forget that just focus on those 3 or 4 greatest hits. Sweet Child of Mine, all of us have one of those, right? A few of those. I'm not saying singing, I'm talking figuratively, right? So do we agree with the idea that most of us are probably measuring our marketing based on quantity instead of quality? Like, let's just get, how do you measure your content team? Well, 5 blog posts a month and 10 tweets, and now we're doing Instagram and TikTok, and it's this volume game instead of how many leads and sales are. Like, how do you qualitatively measure sales off of like social media or the blog? You can't measure that. I was arguing with Gary Vaynerchuk on stage, and because he knows I'm the analytics geek, because I built the analytics at Yahoo a quarter century ago. I retired 20 years ago. I have nothing to sell you. And he said, well, what's the ROI of your mother? As in, like, you can't do attribution. You can't put any sort of quantification on what's working. I can quantify this, because I can quantify how many people see this and then go through our $1-a-day training, which we've made for free on HubSpot. So if you go to HubSpot, you'll see all the courses and whatnot that we have there. And people are learning how to do $1 a day. They're learning how to take their best stories and put money against it. And I'll show you how easy it is, because people say, oh, well, that was easy because Dennis has spent $1 billion for Starbucks and these kinds of companies. No, you can do it. Your kid has a lemonade stand. We could do it. So a friend of mine, he is a pilot for Allegiant Airlines, the low-cost airline, okay? And we were at a stoplight. This is probably not going to play the sound. Let's see, will it?
What's the pilot get paid? Well, I get paid $57 an hour right now, but it's only when the door closes. So when we're sitting there waiting for everybody to take their seats, or sitting there waiting for maintenance, we're getting 0.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How much does a pilot make per year?
So I would say starting would be right around $60,000 a year, and then once you kind of progress in your career, there are a lot of guys that make $500,000 a year. Yeah.
What do you fly?
I fly the Airbus A320.
Hey, hell yeah.
Okay, so that was on TikTok, and it's gotten hundreds of thousands of views. I'm not a celebrity on TikTok. And then if you look at the comments here, this was organic. They're saying like, oh, well, what kind of pilot do you, or I fly for United, and I'm going to college to major in aviation. Was it worth it to you? And so there's all these pilots that are having this conversation, right? Now, anyone who's saying it's not Easy though, learning FARs, aviation handbooks, ACs, check rides, canceled flights, rough days, blah, 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 right? This is clearly pilot talk, right? American wide body first officers making $300,000. Hawaiian pays new pilots 30 for the first year, 150 for the second, 500K, blah, 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 right? So this video that I shot on my cell phone while Alex was at the red light with no preparation, where I said, so you're a pilot for Allegiant, how much money do you make anyway? He says, well, we don't make any money when the door, unless the door is closed. You saw him say, like, when there's a delay on the flight, they're not making any money like the rest of us. So don't get pissed at the pilot. They're waiting too, right? Like, oh, that was interesting. Put that on TikTok and hundreds of thousands of people saw it. He wasn't wearing a pilot's uniform. I didn't edit that. I didn't use a fancy, I used this phone right here to be able to show that Allegiant pilots are underpaid relative to the rest of the industry compared to United and American Airlines, like 30% underpaid. Fact, they haven't had a union negotiation in 10 years. And it so happens that Alex runs the marketing for the Allegiant Pilots Association. Do you guys remember the Super Bowl? You know where it was? Allegiant Stadium, right? So the pilots decided they would do a flyover at Allegiant Stadium. And they had a skywriter spell out, Allegiant pilots. Oh, actually, we went in front of Allegiant's headquarters. And then they're all holding their signs like, new contract now, and, the pilots are not being treated properly, and all this. And this is on my Twitter. So just UGC content, right? Not professionally shot or anything like that, right? Took these signs in front of Allegiant's headquarters, and I targeted people who were within a block or two of Allegiant's headquarters. So their management, every time they opened Twitter, is just getting pounded by this. Then I took this is $1 a day, okay? This is where I'm going. I'm not just telling random stories. Everything actually ties towards something. So if you look at my other posts, they're also along those lines. So if I look at, Allegiant Pilots, Allegiant Pilots Association, which is ours. We created that handle. But I've got all these posts, and some of them I boosted to fans of the 49ers versus the Chiefs. I boosted to people who worked at United Airlines, people who worked at the FAA. I did all of these micro targets. And let me show you how I actually did it. Has anyone here run $1 a day ads before? This is going to be a red pill moment for you. Okay. Please, no whammies, no whammies. Let's hope this works. This is how easy it is to make an ad. So I literally can come in and grab this one, Allegiant Skywriter. I've got these different ads. And what I'm doing is I'm taking these posts, like this one, and it's just the Skywriter writing Allegiant pilot contract now. I know it's kind of hard to see, but this is you see that? Allegiant pilot contract now? And some of these are getting millions of views because I'm micro-targeting. And what happens here, and this is true for LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all of these guys. I'll just show you, like this one. So I'm targeting the 49ers and the Chiefs, and the tweet I made that was organic was, hey, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? And then the Allegiant pilots contract is not a game. You got to pay your pilots right, something like that. And here, with follower lookalike targets, I'm targeting fans of the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I also set up another target around people who were in the stadium during the time of the Super Bowl, just then. So they're on social media, right? That's how it is now. And you'll see the engagement rate on this was like 25 to 30% because it was super, super targeted. And this cost me $1,000, $1,394, right? Some have higher, some have lower engagement rate. And so what's going on is that as I'm running these ads that are super targeted, because I'm choosing some kind of target and I have some kind of content, the intersection between those is relevancy. That's what you learn in advertising. That's what an ad group, quality score on Google, relevance score on Facebook. And what I'm trying to do is get to an engagement rate of above 10%. So follow me here. This feels like math, but just if you don't know this, you don't know how to optimize your advertising. So this one here, 6.5%, 0.3%, 0.1%, 1%, 3%, and then all of a sudden 25.5%. That means 1 in 4 people are engaging on it or watching the video or clicking, depending on what I choose. 4%, 1%, 6%, 0.1%. Most of these are not over 10%. Most of them are like 1 or 2%, right? And then all of a sudden 10%, right? 14%, 12%, 10.5%, 10.8%, 18%, right? So what is going on here? What's the mechanic? What's the mechanical breakdown of the ads? So this happens to be on Twitter, but this works on every single channel. Any other social feed-driven channel, which is social networks mainly, but Google too, there's content that's being put out there, either put into the search results, which you don't even know if they're ads because it's that light little gray sponsor. People don't know those are ads, right? I mean, they're ads, but you don't know. And they're scrolling through TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, right? I mean, YouTube is probably the most obvious because you got to wait for the thing to, whatever, cancel out of that thing. It's obviously an ad. But the network is showing you something, and it's trying to go for the highest relevancy. And what we're looking for after spending $1 billion of other people's money is 10%. So if we can get 10% engagement, that's a sign that there's a connection between the audience and the target. And what happens when the engagement rate is high? What does Twitter or Facebook or Google or TikTok do when the engagement rate is high? Emily, what? Feeds more organically, yes. So you get an organic multiplier. What else? More authority, because it shows that you have more likes, comments, and shares. And then the more money you put against it, that actually counteracts ad burnout up until you run out of audience. But the other thing is it increases your quality score and your relevance score. So the price you pay per click, or the price you pay per conversion, or the price you pay per 1,000 impressions, which is CPM, is equal to the quality score you have times your bid, which is equal to your ad rank, which positions you in the auction to be able to show. So if my CTR is 25% on that one, and I'm testing lots of them, and some of them are like 0.2% and some are like 25, there's a whole range. That's what happens when you test. And someone else, what's the average CTR of an ad? Typically 1 or 2% if you're good, right? But normally it's less than that. It's like point something percent. So if I'm at a 25% and someone else is like 1 or 2%, if I'm 25% higher, 25 times higher, how much more is this other person going to pay proportionately? It's directly arithmetically calculated in your price. If your CTR is 10 times higher, you pay 1/10 the price. That's why a boosted post works so well. And it's not because I'm trying to get the traffic for cheap. It's because the social network sees that this is the highest engagement. So let's go to Amazon, for example, which also works on a collaborative filter, 2-price auction. So someone named something they like, they bought recently. Slumber pod? What is a slumber pod? Let's find out. There's a slumber pod fan, a toddler bed. Wow, it's like a little kid tent. That is cool. Now, you see these results here? What's your name? Janet. You have one of these? Can you tell from way back there that these are all ads? You can tell, but you're at a marketing conference. But when you guys are scrolling, do you know that these are ads? I mean, actually you guys know, but do most people know that these are ads? No. So how did Amazon decide to put these first results as ads? And then there's these ones here, which are not ads. This is an ad. This is their copycat, Hicka Pop Blackout Tent, which is their ripoff, right? Because they always want to show. So Hicka Pop is bidding on Slumber Pod. I've never thought I would say those words coming up with it. And so 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 we switched from Twitter to Amazon, but I just want to show you the math is exactly the same. Okay. It's a second price auction based on a collaborative filter lookalike. That's how they decide what shows up. So these guys are probably some cheap Chinese ripoff, whatever. And so they have something that's kind of close to the Slumber Pod, right? And it's a lot cheaper. And it's got 225 5-star reviews. Might you maybe, if you didn't buy the Slumber, like maybe you're like end of the month, you don't have much money or something, right? You might consider that one, right? But you didn't buy it. Why not? Oh, okay, so you're more brand loyal, and that tied to like better quality and whatnot. Okay, I'm like that too. I'll pay more just because, but because it's higher quality, right? But most people, they'd look at this and they look at the reviews, and you guys might even like, I mean, you probably would click on it like, well, this thing's like way cheaper, and it seems like it's as good. I mean, the reviews, let's look at them. If they're real, like I might actually consider buying that one instead of the name brand one, right? So these guys are buying. What do you think? Is it Janet? What do you think the CTR is on that one? Is it relevant? You know they're bidding on just that one, right? Every time someone's looking for a Slumber Pod, these guys are right there, right? What do you think the CTR is? I bet you it's 25 to 30%. Yeah. Now, do you think they're going to show up on like baby supplies or tents or like stuff like that? Or no. So I bet you the relevance score is like 70, 80%. It's like super high, okay? And because their CTR is super high, for that product that's $124, I bet you they're selling it for $10, $15 maybe. I've done enough e-com. I know Amazon's system. And there's these other things that are kind of related to that. This pack and play is $99, but it's got 6 reviews and 4 stars. But this Hiccapop one, this looks pretty close. You clicked on it because you thought it was pretty close, right? So someone name, I don't know, a favorite movie or a favorite, something they'd watch on Netflix or anything. The Office with like Steve Carell and all them, right? So if I look at The Office, people are also, okay, people are asking, are Friends or The Office better? Why was The Office canceled? When did it decline? Is it worth watching? And people also saw Parks and Recreation, Superstore, Arrested Development. Do you watch any of these ones too? So what was your name? Julia. So do you find that the recommendations on Amazon or Netflix are pretty good? Huh. And the recommendations are pretty good on like Spotify or TikTok. Aren't the recommendations really good on TikTok? Like it knows you, right? How do you think that happens? How do you think that it determined like people who like The Office, they also like Parks and Rec? We're doing an advertising class. This is advertising, believe it or not. How did they determine that? What is that called? Affinity. And affinity is based on a collaborative filter. And a collaborative filter is based on a second price auction, right? Which is how much you pay for that. So an affinity is, as a lookalike, is to say, just like on Amazon, people who bought the Slumber Pod also bought these other baby things, right? And so they've mapped that together. And the mapping of those items together allows Amazon or Netflix or Facebook or TikTok or Twitter to calculate how likely, this is a conditional probability. So if someone buys this thing, how likely are they going to buy this other thing, right? Just like supermarkets calculated, if the dude comes in and he has to buy diapers, how likely does he buy the beer? And you put the beer and diapers together, right? You've heard about that, right? There's math behind that. That's a collaborative filter. And it's the same thing that drives what you see on TikTok and Facebook and Amazon and Twitter and all of these other things we're looking at, like this thing here. How do you think all of a sudden, all these pilots, stop doing that to me. That's why I worry about TikTok. I don't even want to open it because it starts doing that to me. And then all of a sudden I lost an hour. But it's making recommendations. I've had friends of mine, they're not friends anymore, and I'll tell you why, where they say, Dennis, I'm not going to, the Chinese government is behind TikTok, and TikTok is full of like underage women. All I see is like underage women. Like, That's what you're seeing on TikTok. You should be careful about what you're talking about there, buddy. Let me see your TikTok. Let's see what you got going on here. But do you see how it works? So everyone's Facebook or TikTok or Amazon or Netflix or Spotify, you're getting something tuned to you. If you believe that everything is being tuned to you because the price of inventory costs more, because the AI is getting smarter, because the Skynet's going to kill everybody, whatever the reason is, then do you not believe that it's the same algorithm that determines advertising? Because the very thing that drives your engagement and drives the news feed is also the thing that makes them the money. You get to consume all this stuff for free because the ads are the thing that make the money, right? If you're scrolling on Facebook, and Facebook is free, isn't it, right? Facebook makes $13 per user per month in the United States. I'm scrolling in the news feed. Oh, look, I'm doom scrolling. Look, there's all these people that are posting all their stuff. And the more I click on other people's stuff, look, we just hired a bunch of these VAs, and now these other people are, commenting on that. And there's this whole group of 45,000 of these people that all want to learn digital marketing with Dennis Yu or whatever it is, right? And so the more people come in and click, and more people want to learn digital marketing, they come in and join, and it's all free. We're not selling anything. We're giving everything away. And this drives more stuff into the news feed, right? So if everyone is able to engage for free on the news feed, oh, there's my friend Tommy Mello. He does $300 million a year as the #1 garage door company. And so the more I click on Tommy Mello, I intentionally click on Tommy Mello. Why do I keep clicking on Tommy Mello? Because I want to see more Tommy Mello in my news feed. And then cross reciprocity, I want Tommy Mello to see me in his news feed because I comment on his stuff. And then he comments, and now Facebook's going to show me to him. See the inception there? So it's free to all of us as users because if they can collect the data on who's friends with who and what you like, and you ever have like lunch with a friend and then like you're driving back on the phone, you start seeing ads for the thing you talked about at lunch just coincidentally. It was completely coincidental, wasn't it? For sure. I was the head of analytics at a search engine. I'm telling you, it's not coincidental. We had all that data 20 years ago. I don't even know what they're doing now with the data. TikTok is way more advanced than us. You know that, right? You know, TikTok does facial recognition. I was at Jake Paul's house, and we would film for an hour or so. This course you're going to see at some point before the boxing thing. I think you'll see like people say, "Oh, there's Jake Paul," but who's that Asian dude that's next to him? And then he would go box for an hour, and then come back and film for an hour, and then whatever. And then when he'd go like meditate for an hour, like his schedule's like this. Like he had a psychiatrist, he had like a personal chef, he had just like the number of people he had was just, it's like LeBron James, these people that optimize. But he'd go away for an hour, and then I'm like, well, I'm in Jake Paul's house. This is really, look, he's got a basketball court and a boxing. He put a boxing ring back here. And I put that on social media. Actually, I put it on TikTok, and TikTok recognized it was Jake Paul's house. So it started showing all the stuff to Jake Paul's fans, and I got millions of views. And Jake Paul wasn't even in it. But we made a video about the Allegiant pilots, and the Allegiant pilots, are being underpaid. And all these pilots came in. How do you think they tell? Maybe they recognized my friend's face and saw that he was an Allegiant pilot. Maybe they heard that we said the word Allegiant pilot, and they started showing it to Allegiant pilots, which then showing to United pilots and American Airlines pilots and Delta Airlines and all of them, right? Do you see how that works? So that targeting is not overt. That's built into the system. So if you want to run advertising, you can take any post that you have and take advantage of the fact that the system is so smart. So I should probably even play this for you. Let's go to YouTube. Watch this. This is, you're not going to trust me once I tell you this.
Go further and Facebook's role.
Watch this.
Dennis Yu is the Chief Technology Officer for Blitz Metrics. Joining us now on set, an industry insider and expert. Good to have you with us to give some context to all of this. Let's talk about this situation. There are the users, us. There's Facebook, the company that we've all opted into. And then there's Cambridge Analytica that in turn use that data, personal data. Many people are upset about that. But here's the question. Who's to blame here? Is it?
Actually, I'm not going to go into the rest of that. But I'll just say Actually, there's a couple. I'll show you a couple. I did this across so many different. You're not going to believe that I did this. You're going to think I'm manipulative. Russian operatives use Facebook ads to exploit America's racial and religious divisions. And according to Dennis Yu, this is how the ads would have worked. You get this multiplier where that one organic ad impression, because the engagement rate is so high, gets a 20 to 40 times multiplier. And then blah, 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 how it generates more engagement. And of the 1,300 ads or whatever that the Russians ran, I calculated that a couple dozen of them were high performers because they released that data to Congress. And I think I was within 10% of the actual performance of the number of impressions and clicks and whatnot, just based on what I saw from those ads. And when they asked me about it on NPR or CNN or LA Times, or you Google my name and all of those, like I did the whole thing, like on TV and all that. And I used that as an inception vehicle because I mentioned $1 a day. I said, you know what? If they just made a 1-minute video and they tested it out there for $1 a day and they hit the 10% engagement mark just to trigger to the algorithm that the thing's working, then they're going to put $10 a day and put $100 a day until they get millions of people engaging. And once that builds the organic momentum, now every dollar acts like $40, right? And that's how I calculated what I thought the total impact was of small budgets. And that's when I was able to prove that Cambridge Analytica was not who they said they were. Cambridge Analytica was claiming, oh, we have all this data on all these users and we can do all this massive targeting because we have this big database. Bullshit. They were making controversial claims about whatever, and the algorithm was finding the people that were engaging for them. They didn't need any data at all. All they needed to do was put up a few pieces of content, test it, and the system identified the winner, just like I showed you on Twitter, just like these posts on Facebook, Amazon. They're all the same. They're all the same. Once you understand what the matrix is doing, it's all the same. So here, this is my profile, but you could do it off of a page. You can do it off of whatever. The key is if it's on a profile, you come here and you turn on professional mode. That allows you to run ads on a profile. And you take any post that you want, like this CNN post, and I can boost it, right? I can boost it to whatever audience in the same algorithm that I told you about that knows that you like Radiohead. No, it knows, it does. It knows what you listen to. It knows that you like the Slumber Pod. It's got all that stuff. I can take any of these things. You see that blue boost button? This is a wonderful, like nuclear weapon, powerful kind of weapon, right? Because I can boost this if I choose the right audiences, if I have good content, if it's not advertising overt content, like Danny just walked out, so I can make jokes about him. But I was on his podcast talking about, SEO stuff, and he's doing this to pest control companies or whatnot. I can boost this to pest control companies. Some of them I can't boost because I think it's like I don't know, maybe certain kinds of posts you can't boost, but a lot of these can, right? HubSpot, Dennis's $1 a day thing on HubSpot. But you see how the majority of these posts here, you can boost them. And here's how you find posts that win. So here I'm telling a story about another young adult who started an agency and he failed. And then by going through our program, now he's successful. He's making $10,000 a month serving roofing companies. Who would have thought, right? But this story, either it's a 1-minute video or it's a picture or it tells this whole story. It doesn't look like an ad because it's not selling. It's not like, when it's stock art, looks like an ad. It's not an ad. It doesn't look like an ad at all. I'm telling an interesting story. People are engaging with it. Based on the signals there, Facebook is building in remarketing audiences for me automatically to be able to show the next piece of content in the newsfeed, whether it's paid or not. And then when I make other pieces of progressive content down a funnel, more posts, Facebook's automatically attaching those posts to the right users at the right time. I don't have to assemble a funnel manually like we used to have to do. That's why Facebook took away detailed targeting, if you remember, a few years ago. It basically died 6 years ago. People are still trying to do it, but almost all the targets, and for those of you guys who run Facebook ads, almost all of that died, right? So look at whatever's working best for you, your greatest hits, and you're going to find that closing remarks, which we'll look at in just a few minutes. But the things that have done the best for you, Think about instead of like the hamster on the wheel trying to like make more stuff and do new stuff, I want you to think too, in that first bucket, what contents perform the best, even from years ago? If it's a story, by definition, it's evergreen, right? Unless you're like in some like high-tech thing that changes every month, or fashion. This is going to be true for you. You're going to have content that you've neglected, that was a home run before, that was a greatest hit. And then maybe you posted it on the website. Maybe it was in a TV ad. Maybe it was like whatever channel it was in the blue, you can process, meaning you can repurpose it, and then you can put it on Facebook. You could put it on TikTok, chopping it up, making it vertical, like there's things you kind of modify to make it work inside like Instagram stories or Facebook Reels, or whatever it is, right? So then you promote for $1 a day. So what we're doing is we're trying to find the clearest signal of what resonates best with our audience by telling these stories. Process it so it can live on all channels. Oh, no, but what you put on YouTube is different than what you put on LinkedIn, because those are different channels, right? I mean, you don't want to say the same thing there. You got to make content completely different for the website versus Twitter versus Facebook and all that, right? Says the influencer, whose job is to be an influencer, makes money off of advertising. But none of us are trying to be influencers. We're trying to sell products and services. So absolutely take that core content and repurpose it to live everywhere. And this is where the social media purists and the consultants want to crucify me and argue with me. I'm telling you it works. I've been saying this for years. It absolutely works. Unless you're trying to be an influencer, this is the model to use, because it allows you to take a piece of content and use it 50 times, like what Danny was saying before, right? And then when you find a winner, you got many shots on goal, $1 a day, $10 a day, $50. I spent $1 million a day for Rosetta Stone, the language learning company. Took a whole bunch of stories of different people that were learning Spanish, like the ambulance driver in Portland who learned Spanish, so that way he could ask the guy in Spanish if he's got any sort of, allergies or something, or the businessman who took his wife to France and spoke French and ordered off the menu. And, we have all these different stories. And, the winners, we put $100 on, then $1,000, and then we put $1 million against these winners. Did it for the Golden State Warriors, did it for Nike, did it for these other companies, spending $1 million. That's how I got to $1 billion, is by $1 million a day. It doesn't take very many $1 million a day to get to $1 billion, but I had lots and lots of these that were just spending $7, $1 a day for a week, right? So this is the model. Your job as a performance marketer is to take as many items as you can from the purple all the way over to the end. If you get it over into the end, there's a reason why I put this box as gold. You win. You can just let this thing run and run and run, and then you go to the big boss, and then you show them the results. They don't care exactly like how many posts there were. They don't want to like meddle in your stuff. The only time they want to meddle in your stuff is when they're not really sure about the performance. But if the performance is good, then you just say, I just need more budget. And then they think you're doing all this work, and all you're doing is turning the knob. You're just, increasing it. And then you want to make it sound like it's a lot of work to increase the budget from 1,000 to 2,000. You have to take like a whole week to do that because you want to milk it and work as little as possible, right? So that's what you should be doing. You should be spending all your time here. If you're spending all this time, everyone's got it backwards. I've gone to 850 marketing conferences like this. It's Groundhog Day for me every day. I'm like, I don't even know any of you guys, but I'm pretty sure you're guilty. You're spending all your time in box number 1 making more content, yeah? New stuff. Oh, look at these new AI tools. I could spend this whole day showing you all these cool AI tools and be like, wow. But we'd be neglecting the reason why we're here, which is to drive more sales. And I don't care what kind of business, B2C, some sort of like boring B2B business, IT software, whatever, it doesn't matter. In fact, the more boring it is, the more likely you're going to win here because everyone else sucks so bad, your competitors. So, and it works in super competitive industries. We've got tons of case studies that Facebook and Google and Instagram and these guys have published. But this is the model I want to leave you with. This is what I want you to think about. Stop being in the weeds on, there's this tool and that tool, because the AI thing, it's just moving so fast that people are just like squirrels everywhere, right? Oh, look. But I want you to think, this is a search engineer telling you need to slow down and think more about humanity. Think more about the best stories. Think about how you can take something that, like this Allegiant pilots thing. You've got all these stories on Allegiant, not 21 pilots. See, Twitter's algorithm's not quite as smart. I got to tell, Elon Musk, he fired 90% of the people, so there's that. But you can see these, certain ones do better than the others. And if my engagement rate's not 10%, then unfortunately it's just not, it's not good enough. I'm looking at these ads, 2%, 1%, 18%, 1%, 10%. So we typically find about 1 in 10 will win. And you can see that's like 1 in 7, 1 in 10. It's about 1 in 10, right? And I've done this thousands of times over every single industry, nonprofit, B2B, local, whatever it is. And it's still about 1 to 10. It's like you grade people on a curve. Like there's just going to be a certain number of people that are A's, B's, and C's, and most people are like in the B's and C's, but just some people are A's. It just doesn't matter. You take any group of students, you always have some people who are just going to be A's, right? And I bet you if you test your content in this way, especially the stories and things that are mid-funnel, not just like buy now, 20% off, got to buy by Friday. Like, okay, I get it, Black Friday, that kind of stuff. But if you take the mid-funnel stories, which don't convert as high, but the cost of that traffic is so much lower, it drives, not because the traffic's cheaper, but because it drives a higher relevancy signal. It helps people understand your brand, and you're amplifying how many other parents love Slumber Pod, right? Maybe that parent, maybe they didn't have a baby, but maybe they'll have a baby in a year, and then they'll decide. Or maybe the baby's now old enough, now they need to get another one, right? Maybe the timing isn't right to buy a Slumber Pod. But if I see enough of the Slumber Pod, and I see my friends, because the social feeds are always trying to prioritize based on what your friends are doing, right? Because there's more trust, because you actually trust what that person's doing, right? Then that starts to increase your CTR and engagement rate over time instead of ad burnout. I can't tell you how many times I look at campaigns. I love logging in just for fun. I know it sounds like sick, but this is like what I do for fun, log into people's campaigns. And I see that they have ad burnout. You know why they have ad burnout? People complain about ad burnout. Oh, I got to keep recycling the ads every week, right? You hear that all the time, right? That means you don't know what you're doing. That's like my friends who are on TikTok complaining about something that's actually their fault. What's going on with ad burnout is that A, their content sucks. It's not engaging. So of course it's burning out. They're getting negative feedback on it. B, the budget's too high relative to the audience. C, there's no relevancy. They didn't test. They let the thing continue to run and run and run. And instead of, you know what, we let a week go by, maybe it did or didn't convert, but we never got people to engage. Well, if people never engaged organically, if no amount of paid is going to overcome that. And then if we run ads against it, against what we believe is the target audience, and it didn't work, no amount of running more ads against that is going to work, right? We did some auditing for Amstel Light and Budweiser. They were spending millions of dollars on social media ads in Europe. And I logged in one of the accounts, and the same ad had been running for 9 months, millions of dollars. And it burnt out in the first week. It was already dead. And I told Carl Heinsland, who was the CTO of T-Mobile, who ran the agency that did all that stuff for them. I said, Carl, man, your agency is like incompetent, but you know what? The brand marketers are even more ignorant, so they have no idea. So we're just not going to say anything about what we saw. But it's just like this. We saw, like, you know what? That was 0.7%. Well, if it's 0.7%, I don't think waiting longer, I don't think changing the budget, I don't think making the button green instead of blue, I don't think that's going to fix your problem, Carl. I think the problem is you don't have the right content, and the content targeting your engagement rate is not high enough, okay? Keep testing it till the engagement rate's high enough. Now we got something to work with, 10% plus 16%. Oh, we got something to work with. And we get the 16%. Then we got to ask why. Well, is it because, and then this is when the humans come in. This is where the AI doesn't know how to do. Humans will come in and say, well, why did this one get high? Oh, it was because it's the Eiffel Tower in the background. It was because of the smile. It was because of the time. It was because the weird blue colors of the screen, and because of the music. People will start to sort of hypothesize why they thought an ad worked. Well, that's where us as humans create value, because then we can make adjustments on the other kind of creatives and whatnot, right? And so that's what we talk about. Like, how do you optimize like a champ? It's not just mindlessly putting out more data, right? It's thoughtfully understanding, why is Amazon showing this hiccup pop next to the Slumber Pod? Why do people who like Radiohead, why is Creep and Tour 2024 the top things that people are searching for. And if they're searching for that and we're marketing t-shirts and albums and whatever, then I need to answer these questions. People are asking questions about these other members, right? I need to know what's going on in these different channels. Why is this creep getting way higher placement and way more views than these other ones, right? What is the connection between Radiohead and Pink Floyd? This is the inquisitive, try to uncover the hidden insights kind of model. So if you approach with that kind of creativity, that kind of curiosity, marketing becomes this Sherlock Holmes fun game to try to get as many things as you can into, because once it's in that category, you just keep banking that money. You just turn that budget up as high as it can go without burning it out based on frequency burnout, right? And if you don't know, you could cheat. Somebody name a brand. I'll do a quick little audit for you. You got a few minutes left. Could be a competitor too, in case you don't want to get, whatever, outed. Canva. I know Canva. They're in Australia. They just had a big layoff. Okay, so, but you're not Canva. You're the government. So how about someone who has real skin in the game? How about someone who names a company? Or it could be a competitor, their site. Farmer's Dog? What does the Farmer's Dog do? Oh, the Farmer's Dog. There's an ad, so you're protecting your name. Very smart. You only lose 25% off of these brand searches. And fresh human. Oh, a cute puppy. You guys are big. Wow. This is not your brand? Someone else's brand. Okay. So we can be critical. So they rank on. Now remember, the whole point of what we're teaching today is take what works and get more out of it, right? The greatest hits. Well, they're getting 97,000 searches a month for Farmer's Dog and 113 on the Farmer's Dog login. So this is brand. This is all based on brand. This is not search. This is navigation, not searching. No one's actually searching, okay? But then, dog vomiting white foam. There's a lot of people searching on that, and they rank number one. Why? Because they wrote an article on what does it mean if my dog vomits foam. And there's a lot of pet owners that care about this sort of thing. And this particular page ranks on 2,900 keywords out of the 155,000 overall, right? So if I look at this site, which has got a ton of power, I love working with pets and entertainment and all that because it's like cheating. Like, how do you not win when it's like puppies? And I see their traffic is seasonal. Okay, well, that's not a surprise. I'm sure they have like Black Friday specials. Farmer's Dog, and okay, what is this? So here it is. What does it mean? My dog vomits foam. What to give dogs for diarrhea? I know we're about to go to the break in a minute, but this is what people are looking at, okay? So if I know that of their 652 pages, that here's all these other things that people, think about all the things that people are searching when it comes to their pet's health, right? Farmer's Dog cost. So it's probably premium dog food. Probably costs more than Purina, right? Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like human food. But people like they don't have any kids, so then they just like treat their pet as like the kid, right? I get it. I'm not going to hate on that. So if I know, if I believe in the model of the greatest hits, I'm going to not try to optimize 652 pages or try to create another 1,000 pages with AI, right? Because all these AI tools can do that, right? Don't do that. You're going to get penalized for doing that. Take the best content you have and try to make it better. Try to run ads against it. Try to trigger more SERP features. So if we look at this dog white foam, whatever thing, look, dog vomiting white foam. I didn't make this up. It's showing up, featured snippets, thumbnail. People also ask discussion in forums. What's missing? This is so obvious. What's missing here? Yeah, there's no video. There's not images. There's no forum. Oh, no, there is a discussion in forums. But here's their article. Here's a picture of a cute dog looking up. Let's take a look. Let's reverse image search that and see where else this shows up. This is everywhere. Look at how free pick, YouTube, change.org. Lots of people want to use this picture. Shutterstock, Dreamtime, knit.pt, Instagram, Portal, Dog, Cane in Viago. I don't know. In China, they have a dog festival. They eat dogs for a week. They celebrate that. It's a big thing on change.org. I bet you that's that one on change.org. Change.org, full disclosure, they're a client of ours. Okay, this is not the one for the dog festival in China. I am Chinese, but I'm as Chinese as Panda Express. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, okay? My first language was Chinese, though. I learned English when I was 6. So you didn't know that. So here, this is, would you agree, this is one of their top performing assets, drives them a ton of traffic. People are learning about their dog's health, and then they eventually buy the dog food from this farmer's dog place, right? But this, as one of their key assets, they're freaking using stock art there. And Danny told you that that's not real. Put real dog pictures. Put videos of like, oh, I'm a veterinarian. I'm Dr. Sarah, and let me tell you about what's going on when your dog is foaming white, or it means this thing and that thing. And here's some other stories. And here we're tweeting it in different ways. What we're trying to do is trigger, what does it mean if my dog, let's just literally search. You want to do SEO? You do SEO by literally searching the thing. So let's search it. There's their ad. There's the AI answer, which is SGE. That is Google's answer to the, AI thing. Indigestion, pancreatitis, bloat, kennel cough, all this stuff. So there's all these other things that are related. Should you be concerned about a dog throwing up? And I don't want to go too much about this, but the point is there's lots of other things that they could be doing here, right? That they are not, because they're not triggering all the SERP features that could show up. Remember when we were doing these searches, there's all these things that you could show for. Because when you do a search, there's not just like the 10 blue links. There's images and tweets and news and shopping and Wikipedia and travel and all these things, right? There's all these maps, flights, finance, news, all these things you can show up. You can turn it into a book. They could turn their stuff, all their knowledge, and then put it as a book, and that's going to show up as another set of SERP features, which are dynamic knowledge panels, right? That's where Google's moving towards. It's hidden in plain sight. So does that make sense? Like, even these guys that are like a big company that's doing really well, they're not optimizing against their top assets. Do you think you could take your top, you could, maybe you have 1,000 pages, maybe you have, do you think you could take your top assets, your top performers on the website, your top performers on social, even going back like 5 years, because a lot of that will still be relevant. Do you think you could just take the top 3 items and try to get more out of that? Do you think that would have higher ROI than, let me just try to come up with our May campaigns and our June campaigns, and like we're gonna have a monthly meeting over all the new campaigns we're gonna keep doing? That's what you're doing now, isn't it? Versus, I'm lazy. Let's take what's already working. I don't want to spend time coming up with new hits. If I'm Axl Rose, I'm gonna take Patience and Sweet Child of Mine, and I'm just gonna coast on that and keep collecting my money. So my question to you is, do you want to be a rock star, or do you want to be a newspaper publisher? Rock star? Newspaper publisher? Are you a newspaper publisher? Or you just don't want to raise your hand? Okay. You just want to get the free drinks in 1 minute when this thing's over. So the content factory, that's what this whole thing ties to. Here's the dirty little secret. If you're collecting social proof, like Danny Liebrandt was talking about, actual EEAT, real experience, you actually do what you say that you do. You're Aaron, and you run these conferences all over the place. You actually have proof that you do it. And it repurposes into other channels so Google can see it. So you satisfy Google's EEAT standards, real experience. That's the thing like Danny was talking about. Then you promote that so Google can see the engagement. Do you think Google can see that there's high engagement if you have high relevancy, 10% plus, using ads, right? Did you know, I talked to Google search engineers, that when you run ads and they have high relevancy, you get rewarded with SEO. The way to win in SEO is real experience that you push across multiple channels, that you run $1 a day ads to, that shows real engagement. But if your content sucks, if it doesn't drive high engagement, then ads is not going to automatically give you search rankings. But if there's a real signal, Google said it doesn't matter whether you paid for that traffic or whatnot, if it drove a real signal, which they can see because they can see the tweets and they can see this other stuff, then you're going to rank better. That's the secret to SEO, not hiring an SEO agency that's black box voodoo, okay? So my hope is of all the stuff your brain is full of, all this conference stuff that you take back to your peers, this idea of, okay, we're gonna, instead of all this random stuff, let's focus on the winners. You've heard lots of great ideas. You'll come back to all your colleagues and share with all the other cities like what's working or whatever, but focus on the winners. That's the boring stuff. That's how you win. You're gonna make more money. You're gonna get a raise from your boss when you do this, and you're gonna come back and tell me how awesome it was. So if you have any questions, if there's anything I can do for you, if there's any training I can give you, this is a 200-page deck. I didn't go through the whole thing. I'm here to help you guys. I'll see you at the cocktail hour. If you send an email to Stephanie@blitzmetrics.com, I will give you our $1-a-day course, which I've made several $1 million on. I'm just gonna give it to you. Stephanie@blitzmetrics.com. If you want this Content Factory course, I'll give it to you. Anything you want that you see that I've had for sale, even if it was thousands of dollars, I'm just giving it to you because I like Aaron and he treats us well with good food. So I'm Dennis Yu, and thank you guys very much. And Jen, you got